Hello, and welcome back to the channel where we dive deep into life's biggest questions. In this video, we explore the third way of St. Thomas Aquinas, the argument from contingency, another powerful line of reasoning for the existence of God. Let's begin with a simple observation. Everything around us exists, but it didn't have to. You, me, the trees, the stars, all of us could just as easily have not existed. We are what Aquinas calls contingent beings. That means we depend on something else for our existence. We were born, and one day we'll die. There was a time when we didn't exist, and there will be a time when we won't anymore. Think about a house. It exists because someone built it. But before that, it wasn't there. It depended on a builder, on materials, on land. It didn't have to exist, but it does. Now imagine that every single thing in the universe is like this, something that could either exist or not exist. What if everything were contingent? If that were true, then there would be a real possibility that at some point, nothing existed at all. But here's the catch. If at any time there was nothing, then nothing would exist now, because nothing comes from nothing. There would be no spark to bring anything into being. Yet clearly, something exists. The universe is here, we are here. So Aquinas concludes that not everything can be contingent. There must be at least one necessary being, something that cannot not exist, something whose existence is built into its very nature. It exists not because something else caused it, but because it simply must exist. And that, Aquinas says, is what we call God. This argument goes deeper than just a chain of causes. It's not just about what brings things into being. It's about what holds existence itself together. Contingent things point beyond themselves. They're like signs pointing to a deeper reality. That reality is a being that exists necessarily, uncaused, independent, and eternal. Aquinas also makes a second move here. Even if we imagine something necessary, it could be necessary because of something else. But we can't go on like that forever. Eventually, we must arrive at something whose necessity in itself, not dependent on anything else. That's the ultimate necessary being, the foundation of all that exists. Think of it like this. Contingent beings are like borrowed existence. They don't own being. They borrow it. But someone has to own it, to have being by their very nature, and to be able to give it to others. Only a necessary being can do that. Now, someone might ask, could the universe itself be the necessary being? But Aquinas would say no. The universe is full of change, of beginnings and endings, of contingent things. It doesn't explain its own existence. It behaves like a contingent thing, and that means it needs something beyond itself to exist. So let's summarize the logic. Some things in the world are contingent. They come into and go out of being. If everything were contingent, there would have been a time when nothing existed. But if there ever were nothing, nothing would exist now. Yet clearly, things do exist. Therefore, not everything can be contingent. There must be a necessary being. This necessary being doesn't get its necessity from anything else. It simply is. And this being is what we call God. The argument from contingency leads us to a profound insight. The very fact that things exist, and could just as easily not exist, points us to a being whose existence is not optional, but essential. A being that grounds and explains everything else. That's God. Thanks for joining me on this journey through the third way of Aquinas. If you enjoyed this exploration, give the video a thumbs up and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you find this argument compelling? And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next episode, where we'll explore the fourth way, the argument from degrees of perfection. Until then, keep seeking truth.